Hi everybody, I'm Trin Johnson, and welcome to Dust in My Eye. Well, Plein Airpril is over, and I can put my book together now. Yay! So if you follow along with me, you'll know that I made two separate books, and I had some loose papers too for Plein Airpril, so that it was really easy for me to just grab these and go. And I will link that video where I made these up in the corner. And then I modified my smaller sized plein air watercolor kit to keep my dried gouache in there too, so that I could do either watercolor or gouache with that for the month of April. And then this one all has just the soft pastel paper and oil pastel paper. And I would move this from kit to kit depending on what I was going to do. That's all that's in this one. This one now has some marker work and some alcohol ink work in here too, because I took a couple loose papers that would work for those mediums and worked with those and then put them in the back of this book for safekeeping. So I have a video where I modified my kits too, and I will link that up in the corner. So now I get to open these up and put them all in chronological order, which was the plan from the beginning. And then at the end, I'll do a sketchbook tour. So if you want to see that, stick around. So let me just get the little ring binder open. I have to go back to the back page like that. Now I have a piece of photo paper from a print of one of my artworks that I had printed for a customer, and I wasn't happy with how the print turned out to what the original artwork looked like, but it looks fine on its own. It just doesn't match the picture 100% or close as I can get it. So I'm going to use that piece of paper for my cover. I have some really good news. I have hit the first level for monetization with YouTube. So I'm working towards that full monetization. And so it would really help if you would give this a like. And if you aren't subscribed, if you would hit that subscribe button, that would be really nice. It doesn't cost you anything. And if you want to be notified of future videos, hit the cute little bell, and that would be great. Okay, I can get these in here. I might have to split it in two. The fuller it gets, the trickier it is. Okay, there you go. All right, now the next thing I would need to do is put the cover on, but I'm going to write on the cover first before I put that on. I am using my glass pen. I can link that video also. And I have mixed up 2 of the colored inks that come with it to give me, let's see if I can show you on here, a really nice olivey kind of green. So I am going to write Plein Airpril 2024. Okay, so I switched to a bigger ring, and it will flip a lot easier now. It was just too much for that little skinny ring. So I'm going to go through here with you, and I can tell you what medium I used for each page, and flip it to the right direction. I might try and get a little closer. So there we go. I'm a little closer in now. It should be easier to see. Let's go through Plein Airpril 2024. So there's my cover page. The first one I did actually, I think, from a photo, because April in Michigan is a little tricky. So a lot of these are from either photos I took a while ago. A lot of them are from photos I took when it was nice out and I couldn't paint outside, or it was the next day and I would go back to a photo I took the day before. So this is gouache and some light with my dried gouache palette with a wash underneath on brown paper. So that was kind of fun. This is from a photograph. We went at the very end of March to a place around here that we stayed in an Airbnb on a lake, and there were golden leaves across, but it snowed. Of course, it was like the very end of March, and the day we were planned to go and do this thing and had this Airbnb rented about an hour from where I live, we got about 4 or 5 inches of snow that morning while we were trying to get there. So we had this lovely backyard with a pond and well, I shouldn't say pond, it was a lake, a small lake, and a dock, and there were kayaks and all sorts of fun things that we weren't going to do, but we couldn't even walk across the yard to take pictures of the lake. We had to take them from inside the house. It was really, really cold and lots of snow. So that's kind of fun. That one's watercolor. This is pastel, and it is from a painting that I did. A painting. It's from a photo I took on Mackinac Island. And no, actually, I don't think it's Mackinac Island. I think it's on the way to Mackinac. I think this is from a photo I took around Traverse City. I think it was Traverse City and the one of the bays there. So, but it was on the way to Mackinac. And then this one, a dear friend of my sister's, actually my sister's brother-in-law, took this picture. He's a wonderful wildlife photographer, and not wildlife too, but he takes beautiful wildlife pictures. And this is a pastel that I painted from one of his photographs that he had just uploaded. We have permission to paint his photos anytime, my sisters and I. So I seized the opportunity and painted this cute little bluebird. And then this one is my backyard. There are a lot of various forms of my backyard that I paint because often, especially in April, it's hard to go anywhere and paint somewhere else. I can paint right out my window. And I think the bright blue skies really appealed to me because it was April. Now this one I painted live. There is a video of this one. I'm trying to remember which ones I have videos of. And this is, I will make a playlist of all the Plein Airpril videos that I made this year, during the month of April, that are paintings that are in here. And this was definitely one of them. Some of them are shorts. This one I think is a full-length video. Now this one also is a full-length video. That, let me think. This was at Stony Creek, and this is also at Stony Creek, a different day. There's a video for this one. This is watercolor and some Prismacolors and some colored pencil work on it. This one was in my backyard. It was the day of the eclipse, and my husband and I set up chairs on the back deck to watch the eclipse. And as the sun started getting darker and darker, there were like 4 hawks flying around, and we don't usually get a lot of hawks, and they're not usually that active at that time of day. So it was really cool. The light was coming from this direction, and I sat and painted while we were waiting for it to do its, as full as it was going to get here, which it got to about 98% here. Some of my family members went south to see the full eclipse, but my husband and I stayed home. This one is watercolor on, that was pastel, by the way. This is watercolor on black paper, and it is a view of the Chilean coast, probably around Valparaiso area, Concon, and it was one I think either my son or daughter-in-law took, or possibly her brother. I'm not sure who took the photo, but we were painting on black paper for my watercolor class, and I thought, I'm going to do that for Plein Airpril. There's a lot of that going on in here, too. A lot of these things we did in class, because it killed 2 birds with 1 stone kind of thing. Now this, I did not paint it outside because it was nasty that day, but I took a photograph of my grape hyacinth in my garden. It's the only one I have, and I painted it in pastels, and it got, it bloomed more afterwards, and I took some more photos, but I did not paint it again this year. I have painted it in previous years, just in general. But anyway, that's what that one is. Now this was from a photograph that I took during the eclipse, and there is definitely a video on this one. We were sitting in the backyard, and I have this beautiful red oak tree in the front yard. I think it's not oak, maple. I think it's actually sugar maple. And the shadow that it was casting, this was right after the full eclipse, or as close as we got, that we walked out to see what was going on in the front yard, and this tree was making such a crisp silhouette. So I stood behind the tree to take the photo of the silhouette. The actual photo has a little bumps out here where I was standing, but I did not paint that into my picture, artist's choice. And that's what that one is. This one is painted out the window of the cottage. We have a cottage on Lake Huron, and we were opening it up, and we went up there, and I painted this out the window. The waves were crazy. It was sustained winds like I'd never seen up there for the whole afternoon. And my friends came up, and they ended up with a tree on their garage back here in Michigan, and we ended up with not that tree, but the one that's up from it blowing over in the middle of the night, and we lost our electricity, and it was really cold, and we had to come home the next day. But before we came home, that was watercolor, by the way. This is also watercolor. They left to go check on their tree, and we had no power. And my husband and I went uptown and did a little errands that we had to do before we went back and closed up as much as we could with no power. And I took a photo of, I think it's the library in town. And then we went and sat at a really nice little brewery where we always go and paint. And I painted this there. Then we were back home, and this was out in my backyard. It's gouache. And I moved my little chair out and sat by the bush and did a little study of the forsythia. Now this one is alcohol ink, and I went out in the front yard this time and sat down and painted. We have this big rock and a couple little rocks, and the garden is full of creeping myrtle, and that's what this is. This is an alcohol ink from my dried alcohol ink palette, which worked lovely. This, I sat on the back deck and painted my pot of pansies that keeps getting moved around depending on whether there are frost warnings or not. But I had left it out there, and the next day, I think, we got just crazy rain and nasty storms, and my husband got it under the deck. We have a gazebo under that just before the rain came, so it's still doing all right, although it's not blooming quite as nicely as it was then. And that was watercolor. That's watercolor on Shenzhen handmade paper too, which is a little tricky to work with. This one is oil pastel. And when I was at Stony Creek, I took a picture of a swan. Actually, I was filming a video, and these swans were not quite cooperating to be in my picture I was painting then, but I got some decent pictures of him, so I decided to go ahead and paint him one of the days when I couldn't go outside and paint. Now this is from my front yard. I set up on my front porch, and there's a video of this, and painted the weeping cherry tree that's in our front yard. And this is a little metal frog guy that I have painted before. This one is in pastel. It was a little tricky because it was garbage day, so the garbage trucks were coming, and the lawn cutters, and dogs, and neighbors, and yeah, it was a little hard. So then across the cul-de-sac, kind of further up the street, my neighbors, I think it's a flowering pear tree, but I could be wrong, was in bloom. So I went out and took a bunch of pictures because I didn't really want to try and sit on the sidewalk again, or sit on the sidewalk because the other time I was on the porch and paint around all the noise. So I just took a photo and went back in. I think it was not really pleasant. It was pretty, but it was cold. And that's in gouache. And then this one, I have a beautiful clematis that grows up over my deck. And it's almost up. The deck's about 3 feet up, and it is about 3 feet above that. And just in the last 2 weeks, at this point in time, I think it was maybe about 6 inches high, maybe 10, just coming up. But this is a photo I took a few years back of it. It has the most beautiful little purple flowers, and this is watercolor. And then this one is alcohol markers, and I thought, I haven't done that one yet. So I took, this is one of the loose papers I had, and I took that and hooked it to my easel that I had been using to paint the flowering cherry tree that I still had set up in the front hall. Took it out the back and stood on in our back. We have a screened-in porch before you get to the deck, and I stood on the screened-in porch and looked into my neighbor's yard, and they had a couple flowering bushes and this big tree with these crazy arms. and it was getting kind of dark, but I managed to get it decently done. It's very much a sketch, and this is alcohol markers. And then this one is oil pastels. And this, I sat on the steps of the deck and painted. I tried to film it, but it wasn't going well. So I don't think I really got ended up doing anything with it. I might have done a short. I'm not sure. I will put it in my playlist if I did. But my outdoor kitty was hanging out with me and wanted scratches and stuff. So, but these were the dandelions that were at the bottom of the stairs. And now this one, we have a French lilac that is just not quite in bloom yet. I can just see it right out my window right now. And it has more buds than this now, though. And I went out and took some photos of it when the sun was shining, but the weather was not cooperative, or it might have been later in the day when I finally got time to paint. I don't remember. And so this is marker and colored pencil. So again, it's alcohol marker, I believe. It's funny, I just did these and it's hard to remember what they are sometimes. Now this one is oil pastels. And in the back corner of our yard, we have this little statue that my mother got for her yard years ago. And when she passed away, I inherited it. And it was just a nice day for picture taking, but not nice to sit out there. And I took a photograph of him with the evergreen in front of him, and then I blurred it so it was all blurry in the background, and I thought, well, that would be fun in oil pastel. So that's what this one is. Then this guy, there is definitely a video for him, or her, I should say. I don't know why I want to call her a him. This little one's a her. We have 2 outdoor kitties, really kind of 3 sometimes. There's another one that's friends with them that sometimes comes for supper. And she was hiding under the deck. She will let me get, when I feed her in the morning, sometimes she'll come up and I can hold my finger out and she'll give it a little sniff, and that's as close as I've gotten in 3 years. So, but they live in a wonderful little Taj Mahal out there for cats, with a heated space and then 2 heated like igloos inside of them that have heat pads underneath them, and there's a space heater for outdoor dog houses that's hooked to it, and the door flops down so I can feed them in there during the winter. And right now it's still up, although I think it's coming down this weekend, and then I'll just have their cat beds out there for a while until they quit using them. They really prefer to sleep on the cushions when we have the deck furniture out, which is going to happen real soon. But right now, they have a nice little heated condo out there all winter, with a heated water bowl and everything. They're very taken care of. And this one's in gouache, and there is a video of me painting this. Now this is watercolor marker, I believe. It's on marker paper. No, alcohol marker. I think this is still alcohol marker. And yeah, I'm sure it is. And a little bit of colored pencil. So this was a goose picture that I took at the cottage last year, I think. We don't usually have Canada geese down by the lake. We see them all over in town, but not by the lake. And we see them all over here too. So it was unusual. So I took his or her picture, and that's what this one is. This one is watercolor marker, which I didn't know if this paper was going to take it or not, but it did okay. This is, I think, multimedia paper. And This I did sitting at the table this past weekend. We were back up at the lake trying to take care of the things we couldn't take care of because of the power outage last time when we tried to open a few weeks ago. So we got our power back on, and the tree that fell is down, and everything's good. And I sat on the porch and painted that. And then my sister came with us, and we were on our way back from town, and my husband had spotted this really cool old house that was off behind a farm that was kind of falling apart. And he said, on our way back, I want to go take a picture of that. So we went down this dirt road and off into this little corner, and there was a driveway was in good shape, and we pulled in just a little bit and walked over to take some pictures of this house that was literally, the whole roof was caved in. It was really falling apart. But we scared something, and he said, I think there's a bird living in there. Well, there was. It was a turkey vulture, and he got startled and flew around us for a while, and then finally went back and lighted back on the old chimney at the top of the house, and that's what this picture is from. And this is in gouache on black paper. Then the next day, nope, this is right. The next day, I went out and sat on the deck again and painted in watercolor. There's a little area by our deck in the other direction. This is an old evergreen fir tree of some kind. I can't think of what it is off the top of my head. And some birch logs that were underneath there, and some more creeping myrtle. So that's what that one is. And now we are on the last day. Let's see if I can do this. Yeah, nope, I'm going to just leave it like that. And this one, I went down and sat on the beach right before we left and did this in pastel. And that is facing north from our beach. And it was really, really pleasant out there. I was waiting for the morning for the sun to come out because it was supposed to come out about 2-ish, and we had to leave around 3-ish. So I packed the car and then went down and sat on the beach and painted this guy. So that's my Plein Airpril for 2024. And I have it all in this nice book. I do have a friend that wants one of them, so I'm probably going to take a photograph of it and put it in here so that I have a record of what I painted. And I hope you enjoyed that. I really enjoyed putting it together and how I got it to work this year. That was a lot of fun. And I will probably try and do something similar next year. I think breaking it down into different papers made it more fun for me, not just... Last year, I think I did 90% watercolor and a few gouaches. And I just do watercolor. I do watercolor a lot because I teach watercolor class locally. And so it's fun to do other things than watercolor. So I really enjoyed that. So if you would like to, please check out my Etsy shop where I have prints of my artwork and originals, including the one that I used for the cover of this book I just made, and some cute little monsters and some other goodies for sale. So until next time, thanks so much for watching.